Hello everyone, this is Steve. During the coronavirus pandemic, most of us are staying home much more than we usually do, and some of us have to spend time alone, and it's a little bit difficult. We can feel lonely. One thing important to remember is it's important to keep doing activities that make you happy and activities that are good for your health. Cooking is something that feels good, and eating healthy food is very good. So today in this video what I want to do is teach you how to make pumpkin soup. It's very easy to make pumpkin soup. All you need is a pot and a few ingredients and you can make it. Okay? So let's think about how to make pumpkin soup. First of all, here are the ingredients you need to get ready. Today I'm going to use this pot, and I'm going to make enough soup to fill this pot. But you can make a bigger amount of soup or you can make a smaller amount of soup. It doesn't matter, okay? But today I'm going to use this pot, and so I need these ingredients. So I have a half of pumpkin squash, and I have one big onion, and I have 3 potatoes, and I have 4 cloves of garlic, okay, and I have 2 big pieces of chicken consommé, and I have a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to use a little bit of milk, and going to have a little bit of salt and pepper, okay, and that's all you need. So let's start making our pumpkin soup. So the first thing we're going to do is chop the onion, okay? I'm going to use a blender later, but if you don't have a blender, that's okay. If you don't have a blender, you probably want to chop the onion into very small pieces, as small pieces as you can. But I'm going to use a blender later, so there's really no need to chop the onion into such small pieces. Just something like this is going to be okay. Okay, and then I'm going to throw those into my pot. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up my garlic. Do you know how to get the skins off of garlic? If you cut the end off like this, and then you break the garlic like this, it's usually much easier to peel the skin off like this. So cut off the end and then break the garlic a little bit, and the skin should come off easily. I cut the end off of this one and broke it. Let's see how see, that comes off really easily. Okay, so peel the garlic and then chop it up a little bit. We're going to saute the garlic, so just small enough so that we can saute it. It's okay. Something like this. Okay. Okay, so now we've chopped up the garlic. So we're going to add the garlic to our onions. And then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. This is the way I add olive oil. Okay, and then we're just going to turn the heat on. And we're going to let we're just going to saute the onions and the garlic until they get soft. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on these and we'll stir them a little bit. While we're letting those cook, let's look at the pumpkin. Let's look at the pumpkin. So we have this big piece of pumpkin, and what I like to do is cut a slice about like this, and then you need to take out the seeds, of course. So you can cut those out, or you can just use your hand to take those out. And then you need to peel the squash You can use a peeler, but I like using a knife like this. It's a little bit quicker for me. Okay. And so we're going to cut the squash into pieces about this big. It doesn't matter so much because later we're going to use a blender. But if you don't have a blender, you probably want to cook these into very much smaller pieces. Okay. And one very important thing is when you start to cook, if you have a pet, your pet is going to hope that you drop something so your pet can eat what you drop. So while you're cooking, be careful. Be careful not to step on your dog, okay? Because your dog will be very, very unhappy. Okay? So be careful not to injure the dog. Oh, there's my ugly foot. Let's look at these onions. They're beginning to... so these onions are beginning to saute a little bit. So we're going to let them saute for 4 or 5 minutes here. Okay? Okay, now we've sauteed the onions and garlic. It's all become very soft. So we're going to add some chicken consomme and water to the onions. It's very simple. Just add the water. Add the water. Add the chicken consomme. Maybe add a little bit more water. And then we're just going to let that cook for a little while. And while it's cooking, first I'm going to add some salt. And I'm going to add some pepper. You can add as much pepper as you like. If you don't like pepper, you don't have to put pepper. Okay? And then I'm going to let that cook for a little while. And while it's cooking, I'll finish chopping up the pumpkin squash and the potatoes. Okay, now we've chopped our potatoes and we've chopped our squash. At this point, there's one good thing to remember, and that is we human beings tend to waste too many things. So if possible, when you're cooking, try not to waste things. So if you look here, you can see I have potato peels and squash peels. So I'm not going to throw those away. I'm going to put those in the compost and make compost for those. And later we can grow vegetables using that compost. If you live in a very small apartment now, maybe you don't have a place to make compost. But in the future, when you're cooking, you should think about not wasting things. Okay. Also, we have lots of pumpkin seeds. And if you take these pumpkin seeds and clean them, and then you just use a little bit of olive oil and salt, you can bake these for about 30 minutes, and they're very delicious. So I'm also going to try that today. Okay. The point is, if possible, when you're cooking, don't waste things. Okay. All right. Let's add these. Let's add the squash. And let's add the potatoes. Wow, it's a lot of soup today. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit more water so everything's covered up. It's going to be a full pot. And I'll just cover those, and it'll probably take maybe just 10 or 15 minutes for the potatoes and the squash to cook. Okay, so the squash and the potatoes, you can see have become they've become very soft. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move this into the mixer. Some people call this a mixer, some people call this a blender. And we're just going to maybe fill it 1/3 full. And remember, if you don't have a mixer or blender, that's okay. Just cut the garlic and the onions into smaller pieces, and everything will be okay. So, have to find my top. Okay, here we are. Be careful because this soup is really, really hot, so I like to put something on top just in case it flies out. Like that. And so now we have soup that looks like this. So I'm going to put this back in the pot, and then we're going to continue with this process. Okay, so now we have blended all the soup and it looks something like this. If it's too thick, you can add a little bit of liquid, water or milk. And if it's too thin, you can just let it cook a little bit longer. So the very last thing we're going to do is add some milk, like this, and we'll stir it. And now maybe it's finished, and let's taste it and see if it's good. That's really good. Maybe I'll add a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper, but this is really, really good. So that is how to make pumpkin soup. Sorry. This is how to make pumpkin soup. Okay. So today's message in this video is these days we're staying home a lot, but you need to do things that make you feel good and make you feel healthy. So cooking is something that makes you feel good, like you really did something important. And this soup is very, very healthy. So why don't you try making pumpkin soup? And when you get a chance, why don't you teach me how to do something? Okay, see you later. Bye.